He couldn't read until he was 21. He made his fortune diving for Spanish treasure, and when he became Massachusetts Bay's first royal governor at age 41, he'd built a fort in Maine, leaving his lieutenant governor to preside over one of history's most notorious witch hunts. By the time William Phips finally shut down the Salem Witch Trials, 20 people were dead, his own wife had been accused, and he'd spent his final days scrambling to explain to the crown how everything had gone so terribly wrong on his watch. This is Salem Witch Trials Daily. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
I'm Sarah Jack. William Phips was born in 1651 in what is now Woolwich, Maine.
He moved to Boston as a young man and became a shipwright and learned to read at age 21.
In the 1680s, English patrons financed Phips' expeditions, hunting the Caribbean for shipwrecks loaded with Spanish treasures.
He made 2 failed expeditions to the Caribbean, turning up no treasure, but for his third attempt, he managed to borrow a ship from King Charles II in exchange for delivering the order to cancel the Massachusetts Bay Charter back to Boston from England, along with royal agent Edward Randolph. That charter cancellation order was when the king revoked Massachusetts Bay's charter to govern itself because Massachusetts had not been as tolerant of other Protestant faiths other than Puritanism and violated some other English laws. In 1686 and 1687, William Phips led an expedition that finally succeeded. He raised about 200,000 pounds worth of Spanish treasure from the Caribbean. This would have been worth about $20 million in today's money. And he received, as a reward for that, he got a cut from the king because all treasure belonged to the king according to English law. And so the king gets the 200,000, but he allows Phips, he grants him 16,000 pounds, which makes him instantly the wealthiest man in New England. And he gets famous, and tales are told about how he finds this treasure. And the king knights him in gratitude for bringing in all this money.
Which makes him the first New England-born man to become a knight.
Phips had a religious conversion experience early in 1690 and became a member of the Mathers Church in Boston, Increase Mather and Cotton Mather's Church.
William led military expeditions against Acadia and Canada, and following the March 1690 attack on Salmon Falls, New Hampshire, which killed 30 colonists, he led and helped to finance an expedition against French-held Port Royal in Acadia. That was a successful raid.
Then he got bigger and bolder ideas and decided that he would seize Canada from the French by capturing Quebec. They're unable to capture anything, but sadly, 400 of the Englishmen died from the colonies, and this cost Massachusetts Bay 50,000 pounds, which, remember, is just a monstrous sum. And this also started a smallpox epidemic because the soldiers and sailors returning home brought this back with them. And this killed untold numbers of people across Massachusetts Bay.
Shortly after that, he spent most of 1691 and early 1692 in London, petitioning for a new colonial charter for Massachusetts.
And he is appointed Massachusetts Bay's first royal governor, the first one to be commissioned by the king. But he's essentially appointed by Reverend Increase Mather. King William wanted a military man to lead the newly styled province of Massachusetts Bay in New England, gone from the colony of Massachusetts Bay. And the king allowed Increase Mather to propose the candidates, and he chose Phips.
This new charter was signed in October of 1691, and on January 3rd, 1692, Mather and Phips finished their business at the king's residence, the Palace of Whitehall, and kissed the king's hand in a gesture of gratitude. Phips and Mather left London on March 7th, 1692. They sailed from Dartmouth, England, on the frigate Nonsuch on March 29th. They landed in Boston with the charter on May 14th, 1692. No witches had been hanged yet.
So then on May 16th, 1692, the new charter and the commissions for all the officers were officially read at the Boston Town House. And so Phips is officially proclaimed not only the governor of Massachusetts, but also vice admiral and commander-in-chief of all the militias in New England.
On May 27th, 1692, Governor Phips created the Court of Oyer and Terminer that would try the witchcraft cases and others. He appointed the 9 judges. Lieutenant Governor William Stoughton was the Chief Justice. He filled the judge bench out with Nathaniel Saltonstall, Waitstill Winthrop, Peter Sargent, John Richards, Samuel Sewell, Bartholomew Gedney, Don Hathorne, and Jonathan Corwin.
Soon after Bridget Bishop was convicted, Nathaniel Saltonstall resigned his post as a judge, and Governor Phips replaced him with a merchant named John Foster from Boston.
He also appointed Thomas Newton King's Attorney General for the court.
In June, Phips requested advice from local ministers on how to proceed with the witch trials. The return of several ministers was submitted June 15th. In it, the ministers urged caution on spectral evidence, but at the end, they urged the speedy and vigorous prosecution of such as have rendered themselves obnoxious according to the direction given in the laws of God and the wholesome statutes of the English nation for the detection of witchcrafts.
On June 25th, Governor Phips ordered the arrest of Baptist minister William Milborne for daring to submit petitions questioning the judgment of the Court of Oyer and Terminer.
In July, Phips momentarily granted Rebecca Nurse a reprieve, but was soon dissuaded from this reprieve by some Salem gentlemen.
By September 20th, Governor Phips had approved a writing project by Cotton Mather to document the witch trials, which resulted in the book The Wonders of the Invisible World being published in October. This book was Cotton's defense of the justices and the methods they employed to root out the witches.
Phips did not write to England about the witch panic until October 12th, 1692. So he had been in the colony for 5 months with this witch panic happening, and finally he writes. And he has decided to suspend the Court of Oyer and Terminer until he hears back from England about what the monarchs wish. He may have enclosed a copy of Wonders of the Invisible World for London to read.
After Wonders of the Invisible World and Increases Cases of Conscience were published in October 1692, but dated as 1693, any further publications were banned.
Sometime in the fall of 1692, Lady Mary Spencer Phips, the wife of William Phips, was named as a witch. And then on October 29th, 1692, Phips finally shut down the Court of Oyer and Terminer.
On November 29th, 1692, appointed judges of the Superior Court of Judicature were William Stoughton as Chief Justice, John Richards, Waitstill Winthrop, Samuel Sewell, and Thomas Danforth as the additional justices. Jonathan Elledson was the clerk.
On January 31st, 1693, Phips overruled William Stoughton's final execution warrant for the Salem Witch Trials.
On February 21st, 1693, Phips wrote the Earl of Nottingham detailing his excuses for why the witch panic had happened on his watch, and he blamed his lieutenant governor, William Stoughton, who was leading the court.
Phips was recalled to England in 1694 to answer a number of complaints about his management of the province of Massachusetts Bay in New England.
He died in England on February 18th, 1695, after a few days of malignant fever.
Join us again tomorrow when we talk about Lieutenant Governor William Stoughton.